The next thing to do is to try and get these tall units in, so that'll be the next thing that I'll be doing. Just going to put the legs in the bottom of this is housing for the fridge freezer, and this is really sort of it's typical. I mean, it's unfortunate, but it's typical of kitchen units, especially ones that are pre-made or rigid carcass. I mean, the only difference between a rigid carcass and a flat pack carcass is that someone's put it together off site rather than coming to site. But this is one of the downsides you get with already made up units. So quite clearly what's happened here is this has been dropped off something, and they put these leg carriers on first, which stops the bottom getting damaged, but it's been dropped quite heavily on these feet here, and you can see what it's basically done is split the bottom. So that's not a disaster at all. All I'll do is straighten this back up, and I'll stick a few screws through the end here. We can get away with it in this instance because this is in a run of units, and even if it was on the end, in most cases there's a decorative end panel goes on the end here. So it's one of those things that we do come across with, fitting kitchens and a little bit of damage. It can look disastrous. I mean, I suppose the builder are quite within our rights to get on to the guy that supplied the kitchen and say we want a new unit or a new base, but that would then mean that I couldn't carry on putting this together, and it would probably spoil the whole flow of the kitchen and my day's work. So it's just quicker and easier. This is never going to be seen because it's in the void underneath where the plinth is, so it's just quicker and easier to beef that up with some screws and just get on with it. So I've just cut, this is the tall end panel that goes on the outside edge of that, that's an oven housing there. So it's got a sealed edge, but it's made out of MDF. So the cut edge that we've got here is pretty much going to go on the floor. Now I'm fairly confident that once the plinths are on, the builder will probably run a bead of silicone between this and the floor. But just in case he doesn't, we need to do something with this edge here, because if the floors are tiled, so if anyone's a bit overzealous with their mopping, this could get wet and then it will expand and blow and it will look absolutely horrible. So all I'm going to do here, I've just got some weatherproof PVA, so I'll just smear that down on that edge, and once that's tacked up a bit I can fit the end panel. I don't normally do it with my finger, but as today's a Monday, why not do something a bit different? We don't want it to go like too mad everywhere, but what that'll do, it'll just help to seal that MDF edge, and then if that does get a splash of water on it, it won't blow, because that MDF, it's not waterproof MDF, I'm confident of that. So there we go. What I'll probably do is, it's nearly lunchtime, so I'll let that tack up and have a cup of tea and put it on after lunch. So I've fitted both those two tall units there. Basically what I did is leveled across the base of the units, and then that gave me the correct height, and then I've used my long 6 foot level to make sure they're upright and plumb. So there's a couple of things I'll say while this panel, the glue on that panel is going off. There's a couple of things I'll say. So this unit here takes a double cavity fridge freezer, and in my experience it's really important that you get this unit absolutely plumb and level and make so it's absolutely square. So I check the diagonals of that, because when you go to push that fridge in and you mount the doors, sometimes the doors mount to the fridge and the freezer, and sometimes they mount to the actual carcass. If that unit is not exactly square, you'll have a lot of problems trying to line up your door. So it's really, really important that that is absolutely spot on. The other thing that I'll quickly mention is, again, if you watch my stud work video, you'll know that I run a row of noggins all the way around. It's more or less door height, and that is to fix my wall units to. And I run that down both these walls. And so what that's enabled me to do here when it comes to fixing these units, I know that I've stuck those units on there, but these ones need a bit more of a robust fixing because there's a lot of weight and they have doors swinging open and stuff. But again, by putting that row of noggins through, you can see that I've managed to get an angle bracket fixing at the top. I haven't put one that side just for the minute. And also I ran my continuous noggins. You'll see, again, if you watch that video, I run a row of noggins all the way through, and I've managed to catch those as well, so I can get an angle bracket on both sides of those. So that, really makes that a really fantastic fixing. Obviously, we have to use small angle brackets in the back here. We can't use those sort of chocolate block connectors because the fridge needs to go all the way back there, but they're thin enough that it won't foul the fridge. The reason I haven't fitted this one is because I don't know if we can see down the back there, but there's those two feeds there, they're the central heating feeds. So there's a boiler going in this is what we call a sort of utility cupboard. There's a boiler going in this one, so I think it's probably better that I leave it until the plumber comes and I work in with the plumber. And I suspect that all of the back has got to come out and that shell's got to come out, and probably a bit of the bottom of that's got to be cut out. So I'll let him get his boiler in there first, and then when that's all done, I'll probably bring this back forward to hide all his pipes and make that accessible, so that if anyone needs to get in there and service it, the pipe work they can. Obviously the boiler will be exposed in the top there, so that anyone that comes in to service it can take the front off and service it from in there. So yeah, that's the only thing I won't be able to do just for now. That's nearly all the base units in, and all but one of these tall units. So once I stick that in panel in, then I'll move on to the wall units, and that'll be next. So it's just coming the second day of fitting this kitchen, and something that bugged me slightly, and I did double check the plan, was a great big gap at the end of this run of units here. I mean, this gap here is 170 mil, and what we don't want, well, I certainly don't want, is great big filler panels, because it's just a massive waste of space. So what I've done is had a chat with the builder, and what we're going to do is increase the size of this to a 300 unit. We're going to increase this to a 450 unit, and then that just gives an extra space on the worktop, makes both those units bigger. That'll be a 450 unit there as well, and a 450 unit there. What that will then do is shut this gap down to sort of less than 20 mil, 25 mil. The downside is I've got to move these tall units across 150 mil. For the greater good, it's going to be better to put the bigger unit in there. It'll just make a more usable size cupboards. So it is a bit of a pain in the backside that I've got to move these units that I spent quite a lot of time setting up yesterday, but sometimes it's one of those things, especially on kitchens. Sometimes you have to make alterations. Maybe a bit of a mistake's been made with the guy that measured the kitchen, but everybody makes mistakes, and it's just a case of getting over them, and they'll order a new 450 base unit and wall unit, and when they come, I'll stick them in.